Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very impromptu Substack Live today. Dana DuBois is here with Michelle and me. Good to see everybody. You guys, this is not a happy conversation. It's a conversation about what it is like being in this moment with Graham Platner as a woman, and especially as a woman in Democratic politics, which all three of us are either in or adjacent to in the case of Dana, but we're all progressives, we're all Democrats, we're all rooting for Susan Collins to lose. And not just Susan Collins, we want the Democratic Party to get back in power and stop this insanity. And yet it's been a tough couple days, weeks, months, years.
Say months. I mean, this Eric Swalwell thing was pretty goddamn bad too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. That feels that whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I think the part that drives me insane is that people who you otherwise think are allies are not allies when it comes to our own side of the aisle. Like, you guys, it's really easy to sit there and feel virtuous about Donald Trump, and very easy to feel virtuous about the Epstein files because you know it's going to probably take down Donald Trump, or else he wouldn't be fighting against them so much, against their release. And it's very easy to, laugh about Howard Lutnick pretending that he didn't know Epstein while they were hanging out on the island. And, then you can feel smug about the fact that you're bipartisan because Bill Clinton hasn't been in office for 25, 30 years. And so therefore it's okay to
Our guys don't do this.
Yes, our guys don't do this. Yeah, you guys, here's the thing. I have seen Substack after Substack of people who I respect. I mean, truly, people I really respect being like, how could I have known? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry to my followers. I'm so sorry that I misled you, but who among us would have known? I'm sorry. Girls, plural, girl, and I mean G-U-R-L-S.
Yeah.
Right.
Not girls in the patronizing sense. Are you kidding me? How many women have to come forward and tell you something before you start to believe them? And specifically, I want to talk about Lindsey Fifield, who's a Republican. Yeah. She came forward and said that this man was abusive to her, physically harmful to her. And people are like, oh, well, she's a Republican. We can't. Do you think he actually checks voter registration before doing something to you? Why do you think Republicans are making it up, but Democrats are always telling the truth? Why do you think that Democratic women like E. Jean Carroll, who are liberal, who accused Donald Trump of rape, why do you think, I'm sorry, sexual misconduct, God forbid Donald Trump sues me for saying he raped somebody.
I mean, a judge said rape.
A judge said so, right? So come at me. But why do you think that somebody like E. Jean Carroll is credible? But why do you think a Republican is not credible? Do you think this only happens to Democratic women?
Yeah.
And the one that disappointed me the most, besides Bernie Sanders, who I'll get to in a moment because he sucks especially hard on this issue.
Author of rape essay of women are just dreaming and fantasizing about being raped, because by the way, Bernie Sanders did that essay.
That weird porn adjacent fiction sort of years ago. I'd almost forgotten about that. Thank you for that memory.
But you guys, let me just talk about Ro Khanna for a second. Ro Khanna, who's done the Lord's work on the Epstein files.
Yes.
And has gotten a lot of attention as a, backbenching member of Congress as a result of this, right? He's been all over. I mean, everybody knows Ro Khanna's name, right? Which is not typical for people knowing the member of Congress name. But you have Ro Khanna basically coming out and saying that this Lindsey Fifield, this Republican who accused Platner of misbehavior last month, right? Ro Khanna said he believed her. Ro Khanna called her courageous. And he said that Graham Platner's campaign should stop attacking her. He described Platner's conduct back then in attacking her as, and I quote, misogynistic, shameful, and wrong. But then he kept endorsing him anyway until this happened. And then everybody got on the bandwagon and nobody wanted to be last except for Bernie Sanders. So basically everybody ran out first because they saw the writing on the wall. Also because they saw his numbers dropping. There's a poll that came out a few days prior saying that, Fox News poll. And Fox News, by the way, their polling has nothing to do with Fox News. The organization they're polling is actually very good. saying that he was, losing to Susan Collins by a few points. And there's a Democratic poll that Michelle pointed out to me yesterday.
Progressive, very progressive.
Yeah, very progressive. That showed that this would be a problem for him.
So
I guess, ladies, I would like your reaction, because as a woman and a Democratic woman, and as somebody who myself allegedly, because the law deems that I have to say so, my agreement deems I have to say so, was harassed by somebody and then accused, because it was Roger Ailes, the head of Fox News, and then accused by a lot of people of, oh, well, she's a Democrat, she just wants to bring down Fox News. Although there were many other women who were not Democrats who accused him of the same thing. They never had to deal with that. Why is it that we can't just be true to our values? And by the way, for all the people out there, Elizabeth Warren and Ro Khanna and Ruben Gallego and Bernie Sanders, who I will get to once we're more into this conversation, why is it that the first 3 or 4 women didn't count? Why is it that the Nazi tattoo didn't count? Why is it that him retweeting Stu Peters, a white nationalist neo-Nazi, didn't count? Why is it that the nearly 2,000 Reddit comments that he wrote under the name P Hustle, where he called rural Americans, of whom there are many in Maine, racist and stupid? Why is it that when he said—
And blaming women for their own sexual assaults.
Yes, well, he said that—
Oh, I missed those.
Oh,
You're
no.
great,
He
great.
said that women, quote unquote, should take some responsibility for themselves and not get so drunk that they end up having sex with someone they didn't intend to sleep with. And it turns out, friends, that the only person who was so drunk that he had sex with someone he didn't intend to have sex with, apparently, who didn't intend to have sex with him, he intended to have sex with her, was Graham Platner. Maybe he should think about rehab and not tell women to not drink so much. He said
maybe rehab and not running for office.
Yeah. Why don't Black people tip? He wrote. He repeatedly used the word, and I apologize for, yes. He repeatedly used the word, and I quote, I'm so sorry for using it. Well, I'm not going to say it. The R word, including several times on Reddit. And again, astonishingly, during his Senate campaign this year, he called something retarded. I hate that word, but I'm going to just quote it so you can see how jarring it is. Why is it? And then, of course, everything's PTSD. Okay, great. You know what? We all have PTSD from one thing or another. It doesn't excuse harassing people or raping people or being racist or being misogynist or, we all have issues, buddy. Sorry. Some of us also nearly died. So it's not like you're the only one in the world that does that. Are we going to excuse everybody who went through the Iraq War or Afghanistan anytime they were harassed for Palestine?
As Ken Harbaugh said in your live the other night, Julie, that the vast majority of people with PTSD are not veterans.
Yeah.
They're from accidents or, you name
Women.
it, abuse.
Right. Women who've been sexually assaulted and not believed.
And have been forced to carry that for the rest of their lives because, God forbid, and this is what judges do all the time, by the way, say, well, we can't ruin this young man's life. He made a mistake and, he'll learn. Meanwhile, you little girl, you carry that for the rest of your life.
Right.
And I'm, and here's the thing. And if I see one more goddamn comment from women, by the way.
Oh, it's women are the worst.
A lot of women. Well, what about Trump? Yeah, what about him? He's a scumbag too. Probably he's king of the scumbags.
Right.
He's worse. Predators. He's worse. It doesn't and people are like, well, don't you want to win? Sure, I do. But you know what? That country that forces women to not only accept abuse, but in a way, welcome it is not a country that I want to fight for or live in, quite frankly. What kind of country is that we're even fighting for? If that's the kind of reality that women are going to continue in the year of 2026 of our Lord, continue to accept. No. And here's the thing too. And there's a great SNL skit about this where there's, a young woman and she's sitting at the bar. It was one of those shorts that they filmed, offsite. And, this guy comes up to her and she, they're in Brooklyn or something. And he's like, oh yeah, the Women's March. And she's like, yeah, really bummed about Hillary, blah, 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 blah. And they start talking about progressive, feminist stuff. And he's like, hey, could I get your number? Could I buy you a drink or whatever? And she's like, I'm just here with my girls. I'm not really. And he's like, bitch,
I saw that.
I love
And,
this
like,
sketch. I've
worse
seen
and
this
worse
one.
and worse. Yeah, it gets worse and
Yeah.
worse and worse every time a guy comes up and talks to her. Because
Yep.
here's the thing. Like, sometimes the misogyny on the left is even worse because it's veiled with sort of like altruistic, oh, I'm a feminist. I'm a feminist. At least on the right, sometimes I'm like, they're like real honest about how much they hate us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what I'm getting. It's the cynicism and the dishonesty on the left with a lot of these guys that it's just, you look around yourself. And I was saying this to my husband, I went for a walk and I called him and he was at work and I was like, I just feel like nobody's safe. There is no one that feels safe anymore. I don't want to say no one, but like the mass majority of men, I don't feel safe around. I mean, I've worked in very male dominated spaces. And I'm going to tell you right now that I was so used to certain kinds of language and I guess sexual harassment, things like that, that like, I didn't even know in some cases that it was happening to me. Like, that's how conditioned we are to this and the mistreatment and the gender discrimination and like, genuinely being treated in a way that a man never would be. Being replaced with men in your job who not only came for your job, but has a history of misogynistic, offensive language, but the thing that gets me even more upset than this, and this really is like at a 10, are the women who not only band together with those misogynistic men for their own power, their own gain, because a lot of women will look around the room, befriend the men, knowing how much they hate women, and they don't think there's enough seats at the table. So they weaponize that in order to take out other women. And then there's women like Mika Brzezinski.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Who this morning on Morning Joe went after, I would say, my characterization, Adam Wren, who wrote the article, was a co-author of the article in Politico, of the more recent, I guess, allegations that we already knew from the New York Times, but more, detailed allegations. And it seemed as though she was questioning the validity of them. This is the same Mika Brzezinski who sat around a table during the entire 2024 election with a bunch of women talking about women in the workplace and women and abuse and how we need to do this and women. And we're going to be so screwed if Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or, whatever at point in 2024 that these panels happened, but they were constant.
Yeah.
These people are not credible. And this is where I will say, and then Dana, I will give you the floor. This is where I'll say receipts are everything. Because I have put together this video of Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough on their show for the last year and a half, over and over and over again, proving that they are unworthy of your eyeballs and your clicks and your views. I have added on to this video 3 times because they continue doing it. So this is not only excusing what is blatantly right in front of our faces, but also making excuses for Donald Trump. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and we'll see you on the other side.
Graham Platner saying this was consensual. There's not a police report. There's not a legal case. What concrete evidence? You have conversations with therapists, conversation with friends. There evidence between her and him, evidence of a crime because he's being accused of rape. What ties this together and gives you the evidence to bring this story to the point of publishable? Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit.
In this meeting, President Trump was tearful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Have you had any contact with him since that meeting, the two of you?
Yeah.
Really?
Did you have Trump back on?
Yeah, it's at some point.
You guys still talk?
We do. Yeah, we do. I mean, we've known each other for a very long time. We talk and communicate, and I try to get insight on what's going on.
I've heard from a lot of people that I respect a great deal, leaders who are really powerful, who just wanted to let me know that that was the right thing to do. I've seen, just like the very opposite happening online.
You will be smarter, and you have been over the last several weeks, because of what we talked about with Donald Trump for an hour and a half. We got information on where they're going, and I do report that, just like great reporters at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal.
We don't have evidence that he took advantage of young girls with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Just common sense be damned.
I'm not saying common sense be damned. I'm saying facts. Let's look at the facts. I mean, is he in the Epstein files?
He's obviously in the Epstein files.
We've had reporting for some time. Donald Trump is not on Epstein's list. There's nothing in there that's really damning about Donald Trump. But you said he took advantage of young girls. You have absolutely no evidence of that.
Dana?
Oh my God. Yeah, horrible. I don't watch much TV, especially TV news. I don't have much faith in legacy media, but that compilation, Michelle, what words can I add to further underline the point you've already made with your art? And yes, women who are doing this to other women are beyond culpable. There is this is the worst sort of pick-me girl ideology out there. There is no winning path to this, ladies. Truly, there is not. And I wish I had something even more profound to add, but your video has left me a bit at a loss for words of talk about obeying in advance and continuing to obey. That's what we've got right there. It's really sad. And the Platner story, I have so many thoughts on this. Starting with something you said yesterday that I put in a note, Michelle, which was you can tell everything about a man's character by how he treats women. And it's an awful place to be in as a woman. Well, not that I have a vote in Maine, but rooting for the state of Maine and being like, well, we've got the woman who put the rapist in the Supreme Court that took away our abortion access nationally, or we've got the dude who's been credibly accused of sexual assault going up against her. It is an impossibly bad choice. And look, up until these last few days, I was hoping that the folks of Maine would have a better candidate. That he won by such dramatic numbers was there must be something there I don't see. And now all of those apologist instincts are gone. And I'm we have a week, you guys. Do better. Find anybody better.
Well, one of the people they're considering has some stuff and is just stop with the men.
Yeah.
Stop with the men.
Enough.
But I will also say that, truly, one of the front runners they're talking about has problems of his own. Not like this, but serious anger management issues.
Don't love that either.
Yeah. Dana, you wrote something. Well, let me set this up. Lindsey Fifield, who's the Republican in question, and I don't want to refer to her as a Republican because she happens to be Republican. It doesn't mean that what happened to her didn't happen. I also might want to add that she was a Republican when Graham Platner dated her, and apparently nobody had a problem with that. But all of a sudden, because she was abused, people are like, oh no, she's a Republican plant. Guys, just stop. Just stop. Yeah. Anyway, she spoke to to the Washington Post. Don't blame her. The Times really screwed her by making her the lead of the story, which of course is exactly, she didn't think she was going to be the lead of that Times story. She thought that she was going to be
One in
kind
a
of, you know,
field.
yeah,
Yeah.
midfield.
They did her
And
dirty.
she gave them names of lots of friends to talk to who could corroborate everything she said. They spoke to two who were the two that she said could not corroborate in real time what happened. They weren't fresh complaint witnesses. And then called her allegations like, basically, I don't know, made it sound like maybe she was, it was nonsense.
Like she
Anyway.
had motivation to lie about it, essentially.
Yeah, she spoke to the Washington Post and she said something that I think is really pretty awful. She said that Graham Platner took off his condom while they were having sex. And
Multiple
Which, by the way,
times.
multiple
is
times
sexual assault.
and ejaculated inside her.
That is sexual
She
assault.
said that she was like, I wasn't on birth control. Birth control is the least of the friends.
Yeah.
It is, first of all, it's about consent. Let's just start with that. It starts with consent.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everything else flows from there.
Mhm.
Dana, you wrote a piece that I texted you this morning. I wish I had the courage to write for reasons of my parents, my father being around. I cannot write about these kinds of things, but you wrote a piece that I'm going to drop here in the chat for folks because I think it's important for people to read it.
Thank you. I don't have my laptop here where I'm
Yeah, no,
out for this conversation.
yeah.
So thank you for having that handy.
Yeah, and I'd like people to read it, but I also like you to talk about it, please.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't planning to write about this, and then I saw the Washington Post headline, and I saw that quote. I don't have the exact words in front of me, but it was like, yeah, he repeatedly over the 2 years of when they were dating would take the condom off, and she said, and he was really sneaky about it. And it, brought up a memory for me of something that had happened years ago. Before there was a vocabulary word for that act. There is now a vocabulary word. It is called stealthing. And an informal poll I took with my readers last night, about half the people I asked knew what that was. So it's not a term many people know, and it is exactly describing this act. It is when typically a man removes a condom mid-act, doesn't tell his partner, goes about his business, finishes inside of her, and then it's over. And the essay that I wrote, because I am me and I tend to lead with memoir to illustrate cultural and political stories, is I detail when this happened to me years ago, a newer partner. And, we finish and the condom's on the other side of the bed. That's the name of the story. And at the time, my brain, of course, went like, wait, how could that have happened? But here's the part that's really interesting, where we start questioning ourselves personally and politically. My mind went to, this is a guy I really like. We're obviously, in my mind, he was pretty new, but it felt like we were heading towards something serious. And so I gave him a story that I also gave myself at the time to complete the narrative of like, and I made a joke. Oh, looks like we're fluid bonded now. To me, it was like, okay, well, we're obviously getting more exclusive. I wasn't worried about pregnancy. He'd had a vasectomy. But I was like, oh, I'm not going to think about what that could, I just was like, it was clearly an accident. Don't think about anything else, right? And we did not end up in a relationship. He pretty shortly thereafter, he ended things seemingly in like a pretty calm, not cruel, ghosting sort of way, just like, I'm not that into this. And we went our own separate ways. And it was only then that I had this reckoning of what had actually happened to me and that it was a violation. But I, at the time, didn't have a vocabulary word for it yet. I was just like, I got to go get a bunch of STD tests done. And there was still this doubt of like accident, not accident, that we go through. Do I have proof? Like, I take this to a court of law and say it was sexual assault?
Right.
No, I don't have that. Accidents do happen. But recapping this in my mind now, I'm like, okay, what this clearly points to is that this was not an accident, just based on proximity of where it was and how it rolled out. And so when I read that, but what was more interesting to me about it was this idea that we don't want to tell the full story because we don't want to tell it to ourselves and because we know we're not going to be necessarily believed.
Yep.
And it's just another trauma. We were talking about PTSD. It's another trauma that women absorb in the storied course of our sexual histories. That's like, oh yeah, that happened to me once too. There are only a few states that consider stealthing a crime. Washington, where I live, is now one of them.
Oh, good.
Um,
Washington's some good books. Laws
oh,
on the books
Washington
for a
has
lot of
some
stuff.
great laws on the books. We do. I think there are only 3 or 4 that do consider this even a crime. So it is very hard to prove. And also, when I've informally asked women I know, it is a resounding me too.
Yeah.
This happens to a lot of us. And I want to assume positive intent that sometimes, I have also had this happen in the past where it was clearly an accident. It does happen. And also, there are places online where men can learn how to do this. They coach each other how to do it.
Yep.
So that this is coming in on the heels of these other allegations, and that she is so explicit that this went on for years and that he was, quote, sneaky about it. But the word stealthing is never used in the story. It is not described as an assault.
Well, no, actually, in fairness, it is.
It is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says, and I'm going to read here because it's relevant.
Oh, thank you.
Washington Post. Yeah, removing a condom during sex without consent is known as stealthing.
Thank you.
It's classified as a form of sexual assault in several countries, including Britain, Canada, and parts of Australia. In the United States, Maine, California, and Washington have laws that address the non-consensual removal of condoms during sex. The alleged incidents involving Platner took place in DC, Fifield said. Now, here's the problem. Platner responded to her today or yesterday, I guess. And
It should be stunning.
Platner's campaign called the claims, quote, categorically false and politically motivated. And the statement noted that Fifield supported now Supreme Court Justice Brett M. Kavanaugh when he was accused of sexual assault before his confirmation. Okay, I have a few things to unpack here. One is the next thing they're going to do is say, well, she kept coming back for more.
Yep.
Obviously, this happened over the course of years. She kept coming back for more. Friends?
That's what
Let
my
me just say
essay
this
is
as a
about.
woman, and
Yes.
a pretty strong woman. I have dated a lot of guys who I really hoped would just get better. And if I just gave them a little bit more time, I hoped that I could change them. So I'm going to, and I defy anybody in this chat who has not been through that experience. If you have had the I don't know if self-worth is the word, but if you've had the strength to walk away after the first time some guy did something bad to you, I don't mean rape, I mean something,
just mistreatment,
mistreatment or something like that, then you are a better person than sell me whatever you're drinking because I want that pill.
Yeah.
So
Julie,
I don't, yeah.
That's 100% what I hope this essay conveyed is how often we find ourselves chasing potential versus capacity. And especially when things are new, it is easier to tell the story to yourself and to others of like, oh, mistake, issue, oh, he was drinking. And we all accommodate a certain level of crazy if we're in a relationship, right? Everybody has their things. And this becomes part of the boiled frog thing, part of a narrative that you're like, well, I'm sunk in this far. These elements are good. This is not so good. And things that seem clearer on the other side of it are very muddled when you're emotionally invested in someone. And especially when alcohol is involved. So yeah, I read this story and I obviously not the full thing since I didn't have those details because I don't have a WAPO subscription, but because of Kamala Harris, to be clear, I used to be a subscriber. It is I so can see where she was.
Well,
and I don't blame her for continuing. And I do credit her for coming out now because of course she's not going to be believed. That's the other reason, right?
Yeah. And you have to make peace with that, like in some way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, I'm going to say this. No one's going to believe me. I have to find the courage to say it anyways. And like, honestly, just for myself, I can only speak for myself. Maybe you guys have had this experience too. I am like so triggered by not being believed.
Yes.
And this is comes from really bad, people around me, relationship with pathological liar who, which really led, without getting too into it, led me leaving show business just because I couldn't handle it anymore. Someone who had gone out of their way to say the most horrible things about me that were so completely false. And there was nothing I could do about it because no one believed me because they had spent so much time building some sort of narrative about me. And it felt like every room I walked into, somebody was whispering about me. And I felt like I had any control over that. And meanwhile, my quality of life, I probably was going to leave anyways, but it certainly was a catalyst, and it's why I'm so, I think the word triggered is overused, but, in
It's
situations,
accurate here though.
but it is, right? I feel, like sometimes like I don't have control of how I react about things like that when people don't even my husband sometimes are like, stop it, you didn't do that. And I get like so angry. I'm like, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And he's like, whoa, calm down. And I'm like, you don't understand. The fact that you're even questioning my, my truth here, or what I'm telling you is the truth, is very upsetting to me. And this, like, all this brings all of this up, right? And I think it's, especially our gen, you guys are Gen X, I'm an elder millennial, and it's like, I feel like just the way that we grew up, and listen, I know the boomers, everybody else had it even worse. Maybe someday the young women of the world will be able to walk through some sort of utopia. But like, if you seek therapy later in life, you start to realize these things that have happened to you in your 20s, your 30s, whatever, that like were not cool, and you wonder why do I always think about that? Why do I always remember that? And it takes a therapist to really like, well, because A, B, and C. And that's why every time these things happen, and even by like Donald Trump standards, like all of like having to take this in, and I know a lot of the women in the chat who watch stuff at Mayday, and I'm sure read your beautiful writing as well, Dana, is like we all find community together in the fact that we have in some way, shape, or form experienced this in the world, and it is very, very hard to wade through this day in, day out, not just at work, not just in our social circles or going out into the world, but in the news, in the headlines, in our political space. It's everywhere.
In the White House, Michelle, in the White House.
Like there's a joke, a joke, sort of, not joke, ask a woman if she's alone in the woods, would she rather run into a bear or a man? Most women will pick bear because the chance of something awful happening to them is much less. And that is real. It's not a joke.
Yeah. Not a trope.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Then I just today had a man in a comment thread say something about like, this whole man and bear thing is just dumb and just further proof women can't think. And I was just like, okay. Don't believe me again. And it's why my writing publication is called I Write Out Loud. It's because I just hit a point where it's like, if it's happened to me, it's probably happened to a lot of other people. And let's not be protecting usually men, but bad
let me tell you guys,
whatever it is.
Let me tell you guys a surprising story. And I don't know, Michelle, whether I've told you the story offline, maybe, but I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly. Maybe, I don't know. The day after I filed my Fox News lawsuit against Roger Ailes and Fox News, and named Roger Ailes' successor in it, and him as well. So who was then running the network because Ailes was already gone. I still had a few months left on my contract, and I had to go back to work. And I had to walk into that building after having detonated this nuclear weapon on the building. Holy shit. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but they purposely, I don't want to ascribe motivations to them, but they purposely had me on air because they wanted to show that they didn't want to be sued for retaliation.
Right.
Surprisingly, they would cancel me the very last minute after booking me all the time. So they knew I had to pay for a babysitter. I was a single mom at the time. So that was a whole different story. But that day I had to walk into the building. And I walked into that building and I was kind of like, is my pass key going to work? Like, to get in? Right. But it did. And I'm riding up the escalator because I came in through the subway entrance. I'm riding up the escalator. And I feel like everybody riding the down escalator is just looking at me.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, and I just, my whole point was, I was like, I'm just going to hold my head up high. Like, what else is there to do? I'm going to hold I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong. But it was, as you can imagine, a very tough moment. And you feel very alone and very isolated. And people who are your friends all of a sudden treat you like you've got some communicable disease where suddenly nobody wants to talk to you and nobody wants to be around you.
Oh yeah.
And I was on with somebody who's an anchor now. And I said to her, I'm so sorry that you have to be the one who's on with me today. And she was wonderful. And she said,
good.
Yeah, she was wonderful. And then the person who was anchoring the show, who now is a very big anchor there, whose name I don't want to mention because I don't want to get her in trouble, passed me a note as we're sitting down. And she said to me, "You are not alone. And you're not the only one this happened to." And I looked at the note.
That gave me chills.
And I looked at the note and I handed it back to her because I didn't want anybody to find it. I wanted her to just get rid of it as she wanted.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that you probably, if you ever would watch Fox, see on the air and you're like, I don't like this woman. I don't like her views. But she could not have been kinder. Both of them could not have been kinder. And I say that to say that women need to support other women. The only person who went negative on me publicly, by the way, was Geraldo Rivera.
Oh my God.
Ew.
That guy.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Geraldo, who I ran into CNN a couple of years ago, was like, "Hey, Jules, what have you been up to?" I'm like, "What I haven't been up to, you complete and utter scumbag."
Get out of my
But yeah.
face, little man.
Jules.
Yeah, Jules, it's been so long. I haven't seen you around. I'm like, Geraldo, okay. I wonder why. But anyway, the point is, most people treated me like I had the plague, but there were people out there who were, and I've never forgotten them. And I don't think you ever forget the people who are good to you. Yeah. And I don't think you ever forget the people who are bad to you, right? Like Geraldo was a total fucking scumbag for no reason, whereas his own daughter worked at Fox at the time. One of them, he's got like 27 of them from like 15 different wives. And one of them said to somebody I know, like, I don't know, my dad's going so dark on Julie. Like, I should believe her. Like, and by the way, this is after Roger Ailes was pushed out of Fox News already. Yeah. After Gretchen Carlson had come out, like.
But it was like, how dare you?
But how dare you do this? And how dare you do this as a Democrat? You're clearly trying to bring this network down. And I'm telling you this very long story by way of saying that Lindsey Fifield might have been a Republican. She might have supported Brett Kavanaugh. Because at different points in our lives, you do shit that are not in the interest of women until something bad happens to you. Or even if something bad happens to you, you don't quite process it until a few years later.
That's what I was just going to say, judging by the dates that she's describing of like that reckoning. I didn't recognize what happened to me as a form of assault, of sexual assault, as stealthing for a few years. And it wasn't until I looked back on it and was like, oh yeah. Now that it was after I read about the term that I was like, well, that's happened to me. And before there's language, there's this tendency to be like, oh, that's just part of dating. It's just part of the shitty things that men do, blah, blah, blah.
It's like sexual harassment and not knowing it's happening to you.
No, and that's why words matter. It's why having conversations like this, it matters. Because these experiences are not normal. They do leave trauma in their wake. I mean, not like I'm carrying around immense trauma from that particular incident, but it's certainly like one of many things that has happened that has eroded trust or faith in dating and humanity, right? Like
Yeah.
these things along the way, the body keeps score of all of them. And to then have to listen on the political scale and on social media to people saying, well, he's still our best shot. You've got to not speak up about this. Women, you need to carry those wounds inside or just ignore them because they're really not important. And if you want to have political change, like unacceptable. That we are not expedient like that. That's not acceptable.
No. And I again, when you're in it, you're not thinking clearly. You're probably not making the right choices, right? And
oxytocin, man, it's a bitch.
Right. And panic and just like disassociate, like all kinds of stuff, right? And so, someday I will share the whole story of what happened, and how it happened and who was responsible for the mistreatment. But I will say that when I co-founded the Seneca Project with Tara Setmayer, that foundation that came together really out of a collective trauma of what we had been through. And Tara was that older woman who I worked with, who had a senior leadership position, who spoke up for me and stuck up for me. And, Tara and I don't get to work together anymore because, by the way, shocking, very hard to run a women's organization because no one wants to give any money to it. And so, there just wasn't enough resources for me to stay and also do this. But
we
I will
change that. We need to change that.
Yeah. I mean, there's like an implicit bias that people automatically trust men and things that are run by men, and they immediately just were like, oh, well, they must know what they're doing.
It's more than that. Our labor is supposed to be free.
Girl, yes.
All these things.
This must mean so much to you. And here's the thing is like when I was really going through it, we were told by the perpetrators themselves, this will hurt the election. This will hurt the candidate. This will seem like you are on Trump's side. This will hurt you. And
don't do things that get that sort of impression.
Did I not do the right thing? I don't know. I might not ever know, but I was told those things.
It sucks, Michelle, for them to call that into question that makes me so indignant on your behalf.
And I was like, and the whole weight of the world was on. I was like, what am I supposed to do? So it's. That is the stupidest reason to do anything. And every time I hear it, I want to throw something at the wall.
Yeah.
It's so infuriating.
Agreed. I want to go beat people up on your behalf.
Well,
and I am a lover, not a fighter, but
this was just,
just a
bad
Tuesday
stuff.
Yeah.
And I will never forget there was an article, and I've mentioned this before. And this was early again. Like this is where I'm like, I spent years in a cult, really, not thinking that things were going wrong or that things like that anybody could have been lying to me or anything. Like, of course, these are the people they love bomb you with. You're my family and you're my best friend and all this stuff, right? And so you look the other way, But I will never forget very early on in my time, there was an article in USA Today that was written about the toxic environment. And it said, the young men were, the young men were geniuses or wizards or something. And the young women were girls. And that is how we were talked about. That's how we were talked to. And that's how we were treated.
Forget about it with that narrative. I can't.
And
I hate to do this. I'm going to need to go because
okay.
I got to run back to my work day. But I so appreciate you all calling
Dana,
me.
great to see you.
Thank you. I did not know that we were going to be talking about that this week. That's how this
Me
news
neither.
cycle works. But last night I came home and that story I was like, sorry, kids, I need to ignore you. Mommy's got to write about, stealthing.
Yeah, right.
I love they have that relationship with your girls. That's
I know,
awesome.
me too. How
Well, I
great is
didn't
that?
actually say mommy's writing about.
Yeah.
I don't call myself mommy, and I didn't specifically say what I was writing about, and I don't think they don't read what I write.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like I think we're all feeling this like just pit in the stomach of like it's very nuanced of like, yeah, I want Susan Collins to lose, like
Hey,
desperately want her to lose.
I,
What do we do?
I have the perfect solution to this problem.
Oh, let's hear it.
I used to work in Maine. I know many people in the state of Maine. It doesn't have to be a shit sandwich between Graham Platner and Susan Collins.
No, go find somebody else.
There are
Julie.
other people out there who could get this nomination. It doesn't have to be the guy who was credibly accused of a lot of bad shit prior to the primary that everybody turned their attention
And
away
all
from.
the women paying attention were like, dude, this is not good. Jessica Valenti had a great note yesterday that I referenced in my article about like, why is nobody, I know she's the best. Nobody should be surprised. No women are surprised by this.
No.
Nobody.
No,
wait,
but
he raped another woman. This is my shocked face.
No, but you know what? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, before I know you have to go, but you have Elizabeth Warren, who everybody's like, well, she's
Right.
one of the most prominent progressives, female progressives in the Senate. If she's sticking by him, it's okay. You have Bernie Sanders, who, apparently is like the fucking Pope speaking ex
Well, it's
cathedra.
like how none of these people are anti-Semitic because Bernie Sanders is
Yeah,
Jewish.
they're not anti-Semitic
Right.
because Bernie Sanders is Jewish, so that's okay.
Creates a permission structure.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
looking at
right,
you,
yeah.
Brad Lander, also. And the reality of the matter is that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, I'm going to be blunt with you guys, don't give a rat's ass about any individual person. They care about power and they care about the cause. And if somebody has to be sacrificed for the cause, whether it's women or members of the LGBTQ community or Black people or Jews or anybody else who Graham Platner denigrated, then it doesn't matter. Take it from me.
Right.
I worked on the Hill. Troy Jackson, problematic. Somebody's asking. Problematic background.
Yeah.
Would not go with him. If they go with him, they get what they deserved. Because I guarantee you, I know what Susan Collins is going to say about him throwing bottles at people, apparently.
Oh, of course. And
yeah.
I just want to say really quick, Dana, before you go, because Jake Sherman reported that last night that the Maine Democratic Party says that Platner's team has repeatedly reached out to them to try to dictate the process by which his replacement is chosen. And Jonah Goldberg, who is like conservative, doesn't like Trump, but whatever. He tweeted in response to this, I love the idea that Team Platner thinks that they can simply dictate his replacement, despite the Maine Democratic Party telling them no. It's almost like they struggle grasping how consent
works.
Well, and it's beyond
that's so
that.
good.
It's also like, are you blackmailing people by saying you're not going to get out?
It's a hostage situation.
How about you
Yeah.
get out and then people will clean up the mess that you created?
Yeah.
Right.
But I
Dude,
will also,
how dare that guy run knowing he had all of
yeah, I
those
want to
things.
talk, and I know you have to go, Dana, and I know we have to go in about 5 minutes also, Michelle. So Dana, if you have to go,
I do.
we will bid you
Bye.
goodbye.
Thank you.
Go back to
Bye.
work. But
We'll see you
but
on
I will,
Saturday.
yeah, we'll see you Saturday. But I'll say this for folks. Somebody here mentioned DARVO, and I don't know that most people know what DARVO is, but I think it's a very important thing. I actually know it from my nonprofit work. There's a woman named Jennifer Fried who we should have on the show. I know her well. Who created an acronym called DARVO. She's a psychologist. She was at Stanford, I believe, and University of Oregon. I can't remember where she is now, but it's an acronym. And once I explain it to you, I don't have to explain it. You will viscerally, Michelle, know exactly what I'm talking about. DARVO stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender.
Girl.
Deny, the offender denies that the abuse or wrongdoing ever occurred. Attack, the offender attacks the person confronting them, often in questioning their character, sanity, or motives. Reverse victim and offender, the offender twists the narrative so that they are the victim of the situation while framing the true victim as the actual aggressor. Friends, how many of you have been DARVO'd over the course of your life? Michelle, you and I have never even used the word DARVO, and I guarantee
I'm going
you,
to DARVO the shit out of DARVO.
you have been DARVO'd 100 times. All of us have. All of us have. And what they're doing is they're DARVOing, and I want to make this acronym actually go viral because it is so important. And I love Jennifer Fried. We're gonna have her on the show. Lindsey Fifield, this Republican, was DARVO'd. She's the offender. She supported Brett Kavanaugh. This never happened, but she has motivation. How dare she? Right? She's the offender.
Yeah.
This
You should
woman,
feel bad for me.
according to
I'm the
Mika,
victim.
according to Mika Brzezinski, what evidence do you have that this rape happened? Well, I don't fucking know, Mika. She'd gotten a rape kit the next day. Guess what would have happened? They would have said it was consensual and that she had consensual sex with him, and that's why there's DNA evidence. This happens all the time. This is why only 2% of all rapes ever get prosecuted, and of that 2%, a minuscule amount get convicted. It is the most impossible crime to prosecute for the very reason that it is impossible for people to ever prove that this was done against their will for the most part, unless you're a child. And even then.
And even then, it's, oh, she was a slutty little girl. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they'll find a way. There was.
Or he didn't know. Wait, she told him that she was 18. How was he to know she was only 15?
Right. There was a very big story. This happened in my hometown a number of years ago. There was a bus driver who was, I believe, arrested for statutory rape for having sex with a girl who rode on the school bus. And this was a big to-do. The story went national because the judge that was in charge of this, like, dropped the charges or whatever, and said basically, like, or like he didn't know, or she was, said something, the whole thing was so ridiculous. And I will never forget, because again, this is my hometown. Going on Facebook or whatever it was, being like, y'all should let the judge know how you feel about this. And because he is a public official, and put, like, the phone number to his office to call him, whatever. And people went crazy, because again, this one is a national story. People went crazy, apparently, like threatening him, threatening his family, which no one should be doing that. And his wife called my uncle and yelled at him, saying, "Who's your niece? She needs to shut up. She's putting threatening me via my family." This public official's wife. I'll never forget it. And because all of this is fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, this adult man who is in a position of power, driving a school bus, had sex with a child, and people were reasonably upset about it. And if people are interested in knowing what this was, it was in Watertown, New York. You can go look it up. It happened. And, I know I texted this to you yesterday, Julie, and I don't want to get too in the negative weeds here, but it's just like, it's very difficult to not feel completely disillusioned with how things are, and it's like, and I feel like such a silly person saying I'm like a white woman in America, like, you know what I mean? I have it pretty good in comparison to a lot of people who, fall victim to a lot worse things. But man, it's really hard as a practitioner in this space to continue on, not only in the realities of what this administration is doing, what they represent, how they're chipping away at our rights, but also the people who are supposed to be fighting alongside with you are sometimes awful and sometimes also monsters in their own right. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And this DARVO thing, man, I was just thinking about your experience with Murphy and the things that they tried to do to you.
A whole separate, story on that.
Of
well, but that's a very good example.
That I didn't do, and theft.
Well, that's a very good example. That was the definition of DARVO in my life. Fox was not. And I will tell you something else. That was a Democrat who pretended that he was a progressive Democrat. And his campaign manager, Brendan Gill, who was inherently responsible for all of this bad stuff, ran. He's a Democratic elected official in Essex County, New Jersey, and ran for Congress as a progressive Democrat. He lost. Murphy's now out of office, so I guess I get the last laugh. But the bottom line is, Democrats do bad stuff, guys. It's not just Republicans. my friend Gretchen Carlson has a great line, which I'm going to steal here, but I'm going to attribute it to her. Nobody ever asks you if you're a Democrat or Republican before they harass you. They just don't. They don't care because it's about power. It is about power. And they don't care who they have power over. These are small men who want power over somebody because they are insecure about their lives. Graham Platner wanted power over Lindsey Fifield. The fact that she was a Republican probably made it all the hotter for him. He wanted power over this woman who apparently wasn't as into him as he wanted her to be. So he came over to her house, drunk off his ass, and allegedly raped her. And so for whatever is in his heart, this is how it manifested itself. I know plenty of good men. I'm married to one. So are you, Michelle. I know plenty of good men. I'm hopefully raising one. And I've worked for many. I want to just say I worked for many who treat women with respect because they have nothing to prove, because they're just good people. My first boss, Congressman Pallone, I cannot stop talking about him because I was spoiled. I didn't think that people like this existed because my first professional experience outside Maine, working for a member of Congress, was based in New Jersey, was this wonderful, wonderful member of Congress who's still there. Eric Swalwell had to drug people, allegedly. It's about power. He could have had sex with people consensually. He didn't have.
Right.
He's a member of Congress. Trust me.
With Cosby, I'm like, you're one of the most famous comedians in the whole world.
It is not that hard.
No, exactly.
Especially if you're famous or you're a member of Congress or you're powerful, right? Yeah. But they did it because they wanted power. And that has nothing to do. And I just spoke to one of the Swalwell survivors the other day, and I have to say, she still hasn't come forward by name because she doesn't want to hear it from people.
Yeah.
She's not ashamed about what happened to her. She's worried about how this is going to ruin her life in Democratic circles.
And also her family. I mean, that's another thing that people think about is like, I can handle it, but like, oh my God, my husband or my kids or my mom and dad, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I always think about Anita Hill sitting there in that, in the room with her family there, having to talk about these things and how difficult that must have been for her. And still, she gave the most eloquent testimony about what happened to her. And it didn't matter because what happened? Clarence Thomas came out the next day and discredited her. Because here's the thing with a lot of these guys too. If you push back, if you speak up, if you defend yourself, at all, the response is always, at least in my experience, kill, 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 kill. It's reactionary, it's knee-jerk, but it's what they do. They take you out. And whatever it is that he needed to say that day, he did. And Anita Hill went on to live the rest of her life as Anita Hill. And it wasn't until very recently that she really has gotten that, respect, I think, from the general public that she has deserved for all of these years.
Well,
for what she did.
And by the way,
Christine Blasey Ford, same thing.
Christine Blasey Ford had to go into hiding. Her family had to go into hiding. I mean, what does that tell you, right? What does that tell you? And what drives me insane, that I know you have to go, Michelle, is the same people who rented buses to go down in Washington to protest Brett Kavanaugh are the same people that excused Phil Murphy's enabling of horrible men in his campaign because he was a Democrat and he was the governor and they had contracts and they had business before the governor. And so therefore they had to kill the women. They had to DARVO the women while at the same time calling themselves feminists.
Yeah.
Because they had rented buses to protest Brett Kavanaugh. The mark of a consistent feminist is somebody who believes women irrespective of who they are and irrespective of who they voted for and listen, there are women who work for Donald Trump who've since come forward talking about their horrible behavior.
Yeah.
What, are you going to hold it against them?
Right.
No.
That's the thing. I mean, I just, to victim blame really in any situation when it comes to that, you know what I mean? Like whether it's different when people suffer politically, from their choices, right? But that no one is asking or expecting to be, harassed or assaulted. To Gretchen Carlson's point, nobody asks you. if you're Republican or Democrat before they harass you. And, you know, it is a common denominator. Like, it doesn't matter. We're human beings. Republican women are human beings too. And dehumanizing them is the first step to a really, really dark place. And I continue to be horrified. And by the way, you know, some of the, because I was trying to find the video of Mika Brzezinski from this morning, and I typed in Twitter, search Mika. And some of the more supportive Graham Platner messages were coming from, do you remember Richard Spencer?
Yes, my friend Karen sued him and bankrupted him for the Charlottesville March. He was one of the instigators of the neo-Nazi march in Charlottesville, Virginia. The Jews will not replace this march. I'm not surprised he's supporting Graham Platner.
Yep. He apparently trying to brand himself as some sort of moderate, which is like,
yeah, he's got a Ukrainian flag next to him, which is hilarious.
In his Twitter bio, like I had to go like triple check. I was like, I'm sorry, is this that Richard Spencer? Because surely this is fake. And it wasn't. He has like a Substack. He's got a podcast, all kinds of stuff. And he was, you know, he said Adam Rand is an unserious person, like going after Graham Platner is such terrible. I mean, these are the kind of people you want in your corner. And this is, again, reason 9,472 why I am very nervous about 2028 and people from the far left and the far right coming together on the other side to elect someone like Tucker Carlson.
And Mika Brzezinski, friends who don't know, hosts a feminist summit in Abu Dhabi, where she brings together powerful women to talk about the path forward. Abu Dhabi, friends, like the fact that she's doing this in the UAE should tell you all about how much she values feminism. The people
I'm like, can women even drive there? You know,
yeah,
like,
I mean,
they probably can.
But no, but this is the whitewashing of nations that treat. This is why I would never set foot in Saudi Arabia for anything.
Hell no.
This is you know why I look at people like Cristiano Ronaldo who went to play in Saudi Arabia, and I disdain them.
Yeah,
you're sports washing. You're whitewashing. You're whitewashing, and you're holding a you know. And every year they didn't do it this year because oh no, it's actually dangerous there now. Yeah, I wonder why. But every year Abu Dhabi. All right. Yeah, exactly. Mika Brzezinski, know your value. Well, I think the Platner massage therapist, whom Mika Brzezinski probably looks down on because she's a massage therapist, knew her value when she came forward and reported that Graham Platner raped her. That's knowing your value, knowing what is going to befall you, and then to be slut shamed effectively on national television by a much, much, much more powerful woman.
Unbelievable.
So, all right. On that note, Michelle, I know you got to go, and so do I. And it was great to see everybody. And I promise we're going to come back and do a happy one of these days. I know this morning I did one that was really depressing, and now we did one today, right now, that's really depressing. But it's important. And to the men on this chat or watching this afterwards, we know there are wonderful men among us.
Yeah.
Please raise your boys to become good men. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, I just sneezed into the microphone. Thank you. Thank you. I just sneezed into the mic. All right, everybody. See ya.
Bye, everyone.